So as a programmer, we usually come across with two types of errors while developing the programs, and they are syntax error and runtime error. Now, syntax error are the errors that occur because of some invalid syntax. If we deviate from the syntax that is mentioned or specified by a particular programming language, then you are going to face syntax error. For example, let's say here I'm writing x equal to 10, and when I'm writing if x equal to 10, so I'm supposed to write a colon here, which is the syntax. But because I have not written this colon over here, so I get an error, that is syntax error, because I am writing some syntax which is not valid. Now very likely, suppose I am writing print and within double quotes hello. So what is missing here is the parenthesis. Now because we don't have any parenthesis mentioned here, so we get a syntax error which is nothing but missing the parenthesis while calling the print function. So hence syntax errors will never let you get into the next step, that is your execution of the program. So unless until you avoid the syntax errors or you debug the syntax errors, you are not allowed to run the program. Now getting into the second category of error, which is nothing but called your runtime error. So these are the errors which are usually found when you are executing the program. So during execution, if something goes wrong, maybe because of some end user input, the input that is expected is not being supplied properly, or there is a issue with the programming logic, or maybe some sort of memory problems. So these are the situations which will arise runtime errors. And the runtime errors are mostly referred as your exceptions. And the most irony of exception is that if an exception is going to occur, the program will abnormally stop. So if you have written 100 lines of code and suddenly you realize or you found that there is an exception in line number 5, which means from that line onwards, even though everything you have written is correct, but they will not execute because the exception will automatically terminate the program. For example, if I look into this statement, print 10 by 0. So here we are trying to divide a number, say 10, with 0. So this is not allowed, and it is going to raise a runtime error which is called as your zero division error, because we are trying to divide a number by 0. So this is an exception. Similarly, let's say I'm trying to divide 10 with a word or a string. So this also is not accepted. This is going to lead an exception that is called your type error. So because we have no support for dividing a numeric value with some string. Now like this, if these are some lines which are part of your program, then automatically the program will stop then and there itself, even if the remaining part of the code is absolutely fine. Now these are some sample list of exceptions which might occur while developing a program, like zero division error we have seen here, and type error, maybe value error, file not found error, and some EOF error. So apart from these exceptions, we have many more exceptions which may occur while you are running the program. Now in Python, every exception is nothing but a class, a predefined class. So all the exception classes are actually inherited from one of the main class or the root, I can say, which is nothing but your base exception. So either they are directly inherited from this base exception or maybe indirectly inherited. But at the top of the exception class hierarchy, we have base exception. So you can see here. So here we have the base exception at the top, which is acting as the parent for all the other category of exceptions. So all these what you could see here, okay, they are nothing but your exceptions. So base exception mainly has one child class, that is nothing but your exception with E capital here, right? So this is a class. And from this class, you can see there are a lot of exception classes or subclasses like attribute error, your arithmetic error, EO of error, name error. Okay. So all these are nothing but the different classes which are present under the exception. And exception itself is a child class of your base exception. So overall, we can say that any exception that is occurring in a program that will lead to a particular class, which is definitely one of the class names which is present over here.